Hi, Julie. I am absolutely thrilled that I'm speaking with you today. I've been following you since you came to Sarnia as a deputy police chief. And as I said in my email, you're a breath of fresh air and an inspiration for all of us. So I'm really excited. And I just realized I stole some of the line because I'm going to ask you to tell us more about you, your career, your life. So over to you, Julie.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Helen, and thank you for offering to have me speak to you today. As you mentioned, my name is Julie Craddock. I am the still new or somewhat new deputy chief with the Sarnia Police Service. I've been here in Sarnia since March of this year. Prior to that, I had a 28-year policing career, a couple of years with the OPP, and then the real vast majority has been with the Halton Regional Police Service. I just have started my 31st year of policing, so it's been a very long journey in public safety.
Julie, 31 years. Can I say that you don't look like that's possible? And also, it still feels to me like you're new. You saw my mouth drop open when you said March. Like, I just feel like you just got here. And I bet you've had a fun time getting to know the community and the individuals who make up the community, including the leaders. So
For sure. And it, you know, I landed here in March, and I can say that I have been warmly welcomed into the community and into the police organization. So although I haven't been here a very long time, I do feel like I'm really becoming a part of this great community.
That's super to hear. Tell us more about what inspired you to take a career in public service.
So for me, I come from a policing family. My father was a police officer. My older brother is a police officer. My husband's a police officer. 2 of my 4 children are police officers. So I would say, probably have public safety in our blood for sure. But you know, one of my real inspirations was actually my mother, who was not a police officer, but had a very, very strong sense of you know, duty to help community members, to support those that were vulnerable and less fortunate, and really just accountability. And so for me, even though my dad was the cop, growing up, my mom was really inspirational in this idea that she instilled in us to, you know, really our duty to serve and to give back.
That's a wonderful story. This is almost like a family business.
It's yes, my sister's the lawyer, so we have a little bit of blue bloods going on for sure.
So I wonder what the conversation is like when you have a family reunion.
Well, there's lots of different opinions on how we would handle things, that's for sure.
I'm sure that's true. And yes, isn't there a television series called Blue Bloods?
There is, and they're police officers with lawyers mixed in there. So yeah, we're very similar.
I watch almost no TV these days, but I do remember that series and I quite liked it. So I'd like to think that's what your family is like. Although the leader of that family is a male, I guess that's your dad.
Well, but I'm the highest ranking officer. So technically you could say maybe I'm the leader of the family.
All right. Women rock.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your mother. And so my question is, most of us can point to one person who motivated and inspired us. Who did that for you and why?
So I will say, I think I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by very strong women. My mother like I said, was not the police officer in the family, but she was really the one that was running the show as we grew up. And again, she, she came from, a rough childhood and was somebody that really overcame her own circumstances. And for her, it was really about making sure that we didn't experience what she experienced, but at the same time, reminding us and instilling us in my brother, my sister, and I, this sense of duty to help people that are in need. And so, she was very influential. As a police officer, as a very young police officer, I had the privilege of working with some amazing women. And, when I started in policing, women, there weren't very many of us. And one in particular, female officer was, she ended up becoming the deputy chief of Halton Regional Police Service, their first female deputy chief. But she was somebody that had really sort of brought me under her wing as a very young police officer. And as she went through the ranks and took on more and more of a leadership opportunity, was somebody that helped to mentor me and develop my career, really took an interest in what I was doing. And because she was in a leadership position, actually put me in different roles within the organization, some that I didn't want to go into, but because she saw the value in being able to, kind of push myself outside of my comfort zone, understanding that there's much more to policing than just, the frontline response. And so she was somebody that had a great influence on me. Her name was Carol Crow. She unfortunately passed away last year, but she was somebody within policing that really left a mark on a lot of, and not just female members, but a lot of people in the organization, because, she really it was how she treated people.
You mentioned your mother and her difficult experience in earlier life. Do you want to tell more about that?
So my mom's not Indigenous. My mom actually grew up out in Prince Edward Island and had some fairly significant things that happened within her family at a young age that really shaped who she was as a person. And she had a brother that was an alcoholic and was suffering from alcohol misuse, was homeless a lot, and lived, for the most part on the streets of Toronto. And, during that time, my dad was a Toronto police officer, and he would find him, a lot of times in not a very good state. They would bring him back into our family home so that my mom would have an opportunity to look after him and, help him with, just some of the kind of basic necessities. And, as a young kid, it was sometimes a little bit alarming because it wasn't what we were used to seeing. And, my mom spent a lot of time talking about, what his life circumstances were, and why it was important for us as a family to support that and to help him. And, I think we all go into policing for different reasons, but that was something that really stuck with me. And so for the vast part of my career, I've really focused my work in the area of vulnerable populations and vulnerable people, and what that police response can look like, so that, we have a obligation to do law enforcement and to catch criminals and people that break the law, but we also have an opportunity to connect people to services and to help people that are in need. And so it's something that I love about this profession. I think that there's so many opportunities to interact with the community, and each of those interactions is really an opportunity to make somebody's day a little bit better. So
I love the fact that you said each day is an opportunity to make someone's life a little better. And that is so true. And your caring does show through. And I like to think, after you described your mom, that she was a huge part of creating that realization and need in you that you needed to do that. So she sounds remarkable, really remarkable.
Very, very, she's a very, very strong woman. and she's taken that, and my two oldest kids are police officers now, and she has a very strong influence on them and how they police as well.
So speaking of strong women, what do you think are the key leadership qualities that we need to develop to be strong women leaders?
I think for me, it's about being authentic to who you are. So I think sometimes we, as we're progressing on our leadership journey, we see what's happening around us, and maybe we try to morph into something that we aren't in order to get into a position of leadership. And for me, it's been extremely important to be true to my own belief and value systems, and also to just be authentic. I think people can see through you very quickly when you aren't. The other thing that I notice sometimes with women more than I notice with men is this need to wait until we reach a certain point in our career or a certain comfort level, until our kids are a certain age. And, everybody's leadership journey is individual, but I think women sometimes wait too long to pursue the things that they want because of timing. And for me, it's really part of my success has been taking that leap of faith and not waiting until the timing's perfect, but a belief that the timing will work out as it's meant to be. And, this position here in Sarnia was one of those. I competed against 11 other people across the country for this position. It wasn't perfect timing in my life to go for it, but I knew that it was an opportunity that I didn't want to miss out on. And, it's ended up being one of the best things that I've ever done, and all of the pieces have started to fall into place, but I didn't know what the outcome was going to look at the time. And I think women want to know what the outcome is, whereas as men sometimes are just more comfortable with the unknown. And for me, it's been learning to get uncomfortable with it's learning to become comfortable with the uncomfortable, to be able to sit with that uncomfortableness and be okay with that. And policing has also taught me that, because we come into people's lives when they're not at the high point of their life for the most part. Nobody calls the police when they're having their best day ever. And 30 years on this job really has taught me to be able to sit with other people's discomforts, and to try and help them, even though it might be uncomfortable for me. And so it's a skill that I was able to sort of take within my own leadership journey of just being okay that I don't need to know what the outcome is. It may not be the perfect time. I might not feel like I have the same, skill set as somebody else that I'm competing for a position. And that's okay, because I bring different things to the table that maybe they don't have.
For sure, that is a lesson we all need to learn, and one that I wish I learned when I was younger. So often I turned down opportunities because I didn't think the timing was right, or that I had the skills and knowledge. And I look back on it now and I think that was so silly. So that some of that comes from a lack of self-confidence and really just not feeling that you're good enough.
And I think sometimes as women, we minimize different skill sets. So, I may not go into a room with the same skill set as another officer or another senior leader or anybody else, but I bring different things to the table. And I think that when I talk a lot about diversity, that's actually what I'm referring to. It's not having everybody with the same, educational background, everybody with the same skill set. It's recognizing that we all bring value, and together it's all of those different skill sets that make great organizations and that make great leadership tables. And I think women have to just start taking their place at those tables.
Absolutely. Yes. You speak my language. So, Julie, how do you motivate and empower others to take on leadership roles?
So part of it for me is really leading by example. I have a very busy home life. I have 4 children. I've, gone through promotional processes, shortly after coming back from maternity leaves. And again, I think it's not, not waiting myself for that perfect opportunity and demonstrating that, I don't think that we can have this perfectly balanced life, but I do think that we can bring in balance in different ways, and that sometimes I'm very heavily career focused, other times my family takes a priority and that has to be the focus. There's times where I just have to take sort of that time out because I need to focus on myself for a little bit. And I think that when we give up this idea that we can have, I always struggle with the term work-life balance, because to me, it almost seems like it's supposed to be this perfect fit of, 50% work and 50% balance. And that's not my experience. My personal experience is looking at what's happening in my life and recognizing that the focus may need to shift, the priorities may shift, but that when that priority is no longer there, I may be able to bring balance in a different way. And I think sometimes women, and it depends on where you are in your life journey, it depends on what your outside of work life looks like, but I think it's okay. We need to be okay with knowing that it's not always going to be perfectly balanced, but that we can bring balance back in different ways when we need to.
That probably answers a question that I had, but you may want to elaborate. And the question was around burnout, because women try to do everything and be everything. And so very often we burn out. And it sounds like you've learned that and learned ways to deal with that. Is there anything you would like to add to that? Do you work out regularly? Do you go for walks, et cetera, et cetera?
So little tidbit of information. I'm actually a registered yoga teacher as well. And yoga has been a very important part of my life. It's sort of that little opportunity to disconnect from everything that's happening around me. As a deputy chief of a police service that, in a community that has violent crime, there's this need to be connected all the time to technology, whether it's, my computer, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's a police radio. And I try to build in those pieces of time where I'm able to completely disconnect, and things like yoga allow me to do that, because most studios have a no phones in the studio type of rule. And it's sort of that 1 hour where I can completely disconnect from the realities of what my day-to-day are, and put the phones away, and sort of, I always say it's the inner connection at that time, not the outer connection to the world. But I think it can come in many different ways, for me, being able to spend time with my kids, or spend time with a kid one-on-one, or go for a walk with my husband and the dog. It's really just building these little pieces in throughout the course of my day. It doesn't have to be the same every day. And I'm very aware that some days the focus is going to be on work because there's things that are happening in the community, and there are things that need to be addressed in a timely manner. And other days, I don't like to use the word, we're all really worried of using the word quiet around here, but other days are a little bit quieter, and it provides an opportunity to maybe do a little bit more, self-care on those days. I do think there is a burnout factor for women, because I think sometimes we're afraid that if we hit the pause button, we're going to be left behind. And I've certainly, it's something that I've experienced. I've worked in different positions, and, I will say one of the biggest challenges for me was, being a mom on the job, in my experience, was different than the dads on the job at sometimes, where they were able to just get up and go in the middle of the night to calls and call outs. And I think moms carry more guilt with them. I think we feel torn when we're leaving our kids to go into the workplace, and we feel torn when we're leaving the workplace to go home to our kids. And I think we need to be able to, I've learned over the years to really let go of the guilt, that when I need to be here, my kids are good. And when I need to be with my kids, work will continue. And to really remove that pressure that I think we put on ourselves, which leads to burnout.
I never thought about the fact that you are so tied to your work because of technology and because you're the deputy chief. That never occurred to me. This really is not a 9-to-5 job. And very centered.
Yeah, policing is a 24/7 operation. And I can tell you some of my biggest stresses are those times when I am disconnected, because if something happens, crime happens all the time, and emergency response is 24/7. And I have children on the job. I have a husband on the front line, and I have 124 police officers here in Sarnia that are doing a dangerous job. And so it's certainly something that I carry with me, around the clock. And it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not something that, at the end of the day, I check out. I'm the deputy chief of a policing organization, 24/7, 365. And I think about it all the time. But I also, again, recognize this need to be able to find some time to disconnect, because you have to. I find time to take vacation days. I find time to just do things that are fun, because it's important to just have fun. And all of those allow me to, when I am here, to be present for, the community and the people that work here.
I've always found, especially in the years when I was really busy and working many, many hours a week, that going to the lake and looking at the river was just the most incredibly calming experience. But I didn't live a life like you live, but it sure is pretty living here.
Well, and I can tell you, so yesterday, after a very hectic day, I went to the lake and had a swim, and it was, the lake is healing and therapeutic for sure.
It is. Yeah. So Julie, can you tell me a little bit about your challenges as a woman leader and how you have overcome them?
So I think, one of the challenges I will say is I came from a large GTA organization that was extremely well funded. It's been challenging coming into a policing organization in a smaller community that has budget restraints. And so there's big city crime problems. There's social issues within the community that need to be addressed, but we're doing it on a very different level and with a very different budget. And so the job itself has been challenging. The Sarnia Police Service does not have any other women in senior leadership positions here. So I'm the only one. And I thought that would be challenging, but what's been extremely refreshing is the amount of people within the organization that have expressed that, women's perspective was missing. A woman's voice at the table was missing, that I bring a different skill set. I bring a different viewpoint. I bring different life experiences to the conversation. And so what I actually thought was going to be one of the biggest challenges coming into a new organization hasn't been. The flip side of that is that I'm coming into a new organization where, I'm the new person since March. I left an organization where I had 28 years of policing experience. I went up through the different rank levels and, from supervisor to manager to senior leader. And so I was really able to stand on, the relationships that I had built over the course of that 28 years. It's challenging coming somewhere new where you're having to rebuild those relationships because I don't know anybody here. I don't have those shared experiences, at all of the different rank levels here. And I'm coming in one of the top positions. And so that in and of itself, just being able to really build the trust is something that, isn't a challenge, but it's something that I certainly am working on every single day here.
So Julie, I'm thinking about the woman that is not as confident in herself as she could be, but really feels intuitively that she wants to be a leader in her community. What would be your recommendations for her?
I think we need to, really understand that, I've had a great policing career. It's not without, things that haven't worked out the way I've hoped. It's not without, and I don't even like using the word failures, because I think that when we have successes are very easy to celebrate. But successes really don't, make you who you are as a person. And it's the times where I haven't gotten something that I've tried for. It's the times that I've put myself out there and I've been unsuccessful, that really have created the most growth. It's the times when I went into positions that I didn't want to take on, the times that I was assigned projects that I didn't want to do, that you push through and you dig deep and you learn from. That those are the times that really for me have been defining moments in not only my career, but also my life. And I think that if we look at the way that we sort of rephrase the word, unsuccessful or failure or something that we're afraid of into just really opportunities. And again, it's something that I talk about in policing a lot. And it's, every single interaction is this opportunity. Well, every single thing that doesn't go our way is also an opportunity to, look at why it didn't work out. And sometimes it's the things that don't work out that lead you down a different path that is actually much more beneficial in the long run, or is better suited. So I think we just have to, again, it's getting outside of that comfort zone, and it's okay to, it's okay to not get things the first time. It's okay to have an idea. It's okay to say, we made a mistake, or I made a mistake and I'm going to do something differently, and to just be vulnerable to the experience without having it really attached to an outcome.
Lots of thoughts going through my head. So one, I agree that what you perceive as a lack of success is often a learning opportunity. And in my case, I often ask myself, what have I learned from this? And then the next question is, how can I carry this forward? So I think that's a great lesson for all of us. We want perfection. And when we look at other people's lives, we think they're all perfect, but they're not. And everyone goes through this learning and growth opportunity. And I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. What is the one thing in your life that you're happy you did?
Oh, there's a couple. I mean, on a personal level, my family is extremely important to me. My children are extremely important to me. I'm, so proud of their accomplishments. This position, I will say, was really probably the biggest leap of faith that I took. I am not from the community. I wasn't super familiar with the community, but I knew the chief of police. We had worked together previously in our prior positions with Halton, and it was, his vision and his thoughts on public safety that really drew me to this organization. But it was taking a huge leap of faith. First of all, you have to get the nerve just to apply, and then you have to be prepared to compete. And for me, being given the opportunity was just one part of it. It was really uprooting my entire life, where I was raising my children and where I, had a 28-year career to move into what was the unknown. And it has already, in a very short amount of time, just been far more rewarding than what I ever could have imagined. I mean, there's a lot of challenges, but at the end of the day, when, I, shut off the lights, I know that I've made the right decision. And I think we're making some really great impact in the community, just in terms of public safety. And that's super important to me.
I'm tempted to ask you if you want to share any of that. And if you choose not to, that's okay. You said that you're very happy with some of the impacts of the work that you're doing. Is there anything you would like to share with us about that?
So one of the greatest challenges in a policing profession is what we can share and what we can't share. And that's a challenge, because there's so much good work that's happening behind the scenes because of the integrity of an investigation, or because of we're sometimes dealing with undercover situations, or we're dealing with big projects, or we're dealing with, again, people that are in crisis. And in order to, respect their privacy, we can't put things out. And so it's a challenge, but what I can say is that this organization has some of the most compassionate individuals that I've ever come across. They have great police officers, but more than that, they have people that are so invested in the community. And, they do that publicly through volunteering, but they also do that day to day in the course of their actions. We wouldn't be able to keep up with the amount of, positive impact that they're having, because we would just be continuously trying to post social media messages. But these officers every single day are having a positive influence. They're having a positive impact. And again, it's not something that we can always share, but it's something that, I'm so proud of, because I, am in a privileged position to be actually able to see that.
Julie, thanks for sharing that. You make me feel very proud. This is my adopted community, and I love hearing that. It sounds like you and your fellow officers are really making a difference. That's encouraging. And as I said, I feel so proud. So I have one final question, but before I ask that, I'm going to ask you if there's anything you want to share before I get to my final question.
No, I don't think so. Policing in and of itself is not a career choice for everybody. But I will say that, however people choose to give back to their communities, I think that automatically puts them in a leadership role in the community. And so, I certainly encourage people to put themselves out there and to do things that, I'm a big believer that small actions lead to big change. And so, making somebody's day a little bit brighter, helping somebody that needs help, being a positive role model for a young person. I don't think, to me, that's all leadership. I don't think that leadership comes in a predefined package. I don't think it comes in predefined positions, but I think people that actually care about their fellow citizens, care about the communities that they live in, are the true leaders. And one thing, I've noticed in this area is there is a lot of investment by people giving back to the community, and it's refreshing to see.
So Julie, my final question is, it's a statement. I'd like you to finish the statement. What the world needs now is...
Say what the world needs now is just a little bit more kindness and understanding.
I agree with that. I thank you so much for taking the time to interview today. And to me, yes, you're right that a policing career might not be for everyone, but to me, you exemplify the best in a female leader. And so I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to get to know you a little better. And these, I'm doing a series of interviews, and they will be on the Gene Collective and possibly a new website called Women Who Lead. So stay tuned for all of that. And all my best to you, Julie, and to our viewers.